you think a Green Party MP will get in here?
I really hope so. I think it's really neck and neck, really. I think it does seem to be also reform, really.
If Andy Burnham had stood, I'm a Green Party member. I used to be a Labour Party member until last year. If Andy Burnham had stood, I probably would be campaigning for him. Because he's not, I think we need to campaign for the Greens because of the principles.
It's Greens Festival.
Because I'm from Liverpool. My whole roots are socialist. I've been a Labour Party member God knows how many years. I've stood on. I'm a nurse nurse academic by professional background. I've stood on picket lines, trying to raise the agenda for better pay for carers. I just don't see any future for what the Labour Party are doing at the moment. It's dispiriting. And so when I thought tonight, I thought that Zach Belansky was going to come, and I thought, maybe I should come down with. These are all members of the Green Party, and we're all good friends, to see what he's got to say, really.
I did some door knocking on Sunday, and I don't think people were. I'm sure you've seen the messages on social media. People were not speaking favourably about Labour, should we say? So I do think it is. And being someone who's mixed race, whose father was from Pakistan and born there, strictly speaking, some of Reform's policies were talking about shipping me back to Pakistan, where I used to be able to speak a little bit of the language, can't really anymore. I went there once when I was 10 years old, so it feels very personal, really, this battle.
When you are door knocking, do you think there is any fever? I mean, the way that Nigel Farage is talking at the moment is that he thinks he can win the seat. Do you think that there is appetite for that sort of party?
I don't know. I'm always surprised by who votes Reform when I talk to people, and some people who I know they've got good morals and good, and they, even people from like people, global majority communities, for example, still saying, oh well, we just need something different, and he seems to talk the truth, and so it's kind of so I guess I am scared just because I think people just see them as being something different, and he's the person that they hear lots about on the TV, and they have for years, haven't they? He's a more known entity than the Green Party are to some degree.
Do you think that there's a risk that voting Green could deliver a Reform mayor? That's arguably what the Labour Party will push over the course of the election period. Yeah.
I think that argument might have been stronger if Andy Burnham was running, because obviously there are lots of people who do think well of him. I think he's generally one of the few people who can beat Keir Starmer in terms of the opinion polls. More people like him than dislike him. He's the only person. I was just reading an article today about that. So that would have worried me at that point a little bit more. But when he's not standing, I don't know who else has got that same kind of, the same kind of name and trust that would get people to still vote Labour.
Could you ever see yourself being attracted to the Reform Party?
No. My mum wouldn't speak to me again. No. It goes against I grew up in this constituency, and I went to school with a massive population of second generation South Asian families, and can't imagine having that mindset where people like that become the blame, and also it's just illogical and it just doesn't make sense. It's just been the same tactic that's been used for generations, and impossible. And everyone's in their own bubbles and echo chambers, but I would all my friends and people work with think are the same. So I don't know who these people are who are quietly cowardice in the corner voting me.
In a simplistic way, I see them as racist. So from a very young age, I knew that was repellent. My family, my friends, people I met over time, meet Sue, all our joint friends. There was a great song, if you have a racist friend, then that friendship's got to end. I wouldn't want anything to do with racists. It doesn't really matter who they are. And I don't see beyond their racism. So their popularity, I do believe, is based on that kind of core principle. And we live in this wonderful community, and we've got 3 amazing kids, and we've got 2, soon to be 3 grandchildren. And they've just grown up. That's all they know. You treat people with disability equally, you treat people of different ethnicity, different religions, different colours. They don't see it. They seem to be able to have wonderful friendships. We're quite generationally mixed. It's great. I feel very lucky that we share musical taste, we share cultural taste. It's a great world to live in, so I just don't know what's going on in the minds of people who want to kind of create this bland, single culture, all white. Islamophobia's become such a buzzword, but it's just going on all the time. And then what's been going on around Gaza, it would have made it very difficult for me to even vote for Burnham in some ways. I would have done it as as a way of keeping reform out. And I really like Burnham. I like so much that he does for Manchester. I'm actually quite pleased that he's staying as the Mayor of Manchester. I didn't really want to open up that battle as well, but yeah, I work in part of my world. I do come across people who are wealthy. Most of them pretty relaxed about paying more tax. I don't think the wealth tax is going to scare off decent people. They used to joke about some of those rock stars who said they'd leave. Well, you'd put them on a plane and get rid of them tomorrow. Their music was shit, and you just want rid of them. So it's kind of the way you do it, isn't it? So it's yeah. But decent people, they want good hospitals, good schools. You know, the people who don't want to pay tax then run around paying for private schools. They're just fools. You can have all the good facilities. They're paid for. It shouldn't be that expensive. Spend less on arms, spend more on your hospitals. It just feels really simplistic, easy politics. And I think Greens seems to be ticking those boxes.
If Andy Burnham had stood, I'm a Green Party member. I used to be a Labour Party member until last year. If Andy Burnham had stood, I probably would be campaigning for him. But because he's not, I think we need to campaign for the Greens because of the principles. But also I think they're the strongest party, because I think Labour really have lost a lot of support even amongst their own members now. So I think Greens have the best chance of beating Reform. So it's two things for me. It's the opportunity here to beat Reform, which is essential. I've lived in this constituency for 30 years and it's a fantastic community. And the idea that Reform could be our MP, you know, it's horrifying really, because we're such a great cohesive mixed community. And it would be very divisive, I think, to have an MP like that. So that's number one. But then to have a Green MP would be an amazingly positive thing, not just for our constituency, but for the country as well, I think.
Just want to ask you as well about Andy Burnham. I know he's not your party, but he's technically your mayor.
Yeah.
Well, not technically, he is your mayor. Would you have wanted to see him selected for the seat? And now that he hasn't been selected, do you think that helps the Green Party?
I think it helps the Green Party in the sense that I think if he was running, I think he probably would have won. But the problem is now it's Greens versus Reform, which is scary because obviously generally Reform is polling higher. So if we work really hard, we have a chance of winning. But, you know, as much as I don't support the Labour Party and as much as, you know, I think Andy Burnham is one of the ones who stuck to some of his promises, he still is, like, you know, holding up this corrupt party which, like, funds genocide, you know, has gone back on every single one of their promises. And, you know, I'm happy that the Greens have a chance, but it is also very scary because Reform is, like, on the doorstep. And we're going to have to work a lot harder to keep them out than if Andy Burnham was in, I think.
That was great. Sorry, I kept asking you a question. You're coming through the trade union route and then you stood on picket lines. You know, Labour obviously is intrinsically linked with the trade unions. Most of them are affiliated. Since they've been in government, have you been disappointed by the way in which they've interacted with the unions and the offers of pay rises being snubbed, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I just think of the doctors. In my lifetime, you know, doctors having to fight for recognition for the work that they do, and nurses for the actual skills that they bring. All the COVID stuff, post-COVID, that has been quite upsetting, really. And I just feel that we're 10 steps forward and 15 steps back sometimes with our everybody should be in a union, everybody should be protected. We're losing some of those things, and that worries me about Reform as well. I just think Nigel Farage is trying to get through some pretty dodgy stuff. Palantir as well, that's another big worry about the NHS and what's happening to the NHS. So
that's not even Nigel, that could be
Wes Streeting, yes. Yeah. And that's another thing about the Labour Party that fills me with dread. What's happening, what they're actually telling us and what is actually happening.
I was quite sceptical of some of their image for the time because they felt quite kind of, you know, white, grey, silver surf kind of crowd. It didn't look that diverse, but it looks like that might be changing. And then when Polanski talked so powerfully about Gaza, then that persuaded me to go the full leap and join the party.
I like the policy on the ecology and sustainability and the world, you know, global warming and what's going to happen next for the next generation. I like the policy on Gaza and the fact that they've been brave enough to say, you know, stand up and say the right thing on that. And the policy in terms, you know, the economic policy. I think that the idea that, you know, they'll be arguing for local growth and for a fairer distribution of wealth.
Is it the wealth tax? Does that attract
Yeah, I definitely am attracted by that idea. I think we should all, well, those who can should be paying more tax.
It's one that polls very well with young people, so how do you feel about it?
Yeah, same. Yeah, if you can afford to pay more tax, then you should be, and people shouldn't be scared of that if they're not going to be the people affected by it. That's just kind of ludicrous. If people are going to benefit from it, then they shouldn't be scared of that tax. But yeah, same reasons. Stance on Gaza and Palestine, and the fact that they're probably the best option against reform, which is sort of terrifying.
The wealth tax polls very well. Do you see that when you're talking to people in your community, when you're talking to people at work or your friends? Is it something that comes up often?
I hear a few people who I think read the wrong papers, who just think that somehow this horrible tax dilemma is going to come. Very few. Most people are pretty cool about the fact that we know we need to spend a bit of money to have a fairer society. And you know, people go to Scandinavia and they come back going, wow, it's amazing, it's amazing. Really heavily taxed people, and they've got an amazing social system there. And you know, people leap through hoops to try and avoid paying inheritance tax, but we're living a long time and we're needing a lot of care, and we all want to see care in the community and want to see elderly people having good care homes. Someone's got to pay for it, and it's not going to cripple anyone. It might just mean you don't have a fourth flight in 1 year or something like that. They just got to stop jumping on planes and spend a few more quid on tax, and it's kind of it feels like it should be really easy for people to understand.
If Andy Burnham had made the ballot, would that have swayed you at all in where you were going to vote?
No, not really. That's a nice straightforward one. I don't dislike him. I think he's done some good stuff for Manchester, but I don't think he's used to the challenge that an MP gets in Westminster anymore. I think being mayor of a combined authority, there's not as much kind of oversight, and you know, you don't have to work with people as much, I guess. Even if I wasn't already a Green Party member, I guess I'd still be a little bit cynical about the fact that he's after he's electioneering as well to some degree. There's been lots of, there've been lots of politics within the Labour Party for quite some time, hasn't there? So it comes across as rather cynical to me as well, regardless.